So, believe it or not, a single type of weapon is threatening to push the war in Ukraine into a direct showdown between Russia and the United States. Yeah, you heard that right. We're going to dive into this, because what's happening right now is this incredibly high-stakes game of military chess, and the very next move could change absolutely everything.
And it all kicks off with this really stark warning from Russia. Now, you got to understand, this isn't just diplomatic chatter or background noise. No, this is a direct threat. It's a line drawn in the sand, and it is dramatically raising the stakes for literally everyone.
So you have to ask, right? What is this weapon? What piece of military hardware could possibly be so powerful, so significant, that just talking about sending it could provoke a direct clash between two nuclear powers? Well, that's the big question we're digging into. Okay, so to really get a handle on how serious this is, we need to rewind just a little bit. We're talking about a super fast series of events that happened just a few weeks ago, and they took this from a hypothetical what-if scenario to a very, very real possibility. So check this out. It starts in late September. You've got Ukrainian President Zelensky meeting with Donald Trump at the UN. Then, boom, just 2 days later, reports start flying that a new long-range missile is on the table for Ukraine. And by October, Putin himself issues that direct warning. I mean, talk about a fast-moving and dangerous chain of events. And this right here, this was the spark that lit the fuse. Trump's comment that he had, and this is a quote, sort of made a decision, well, that was the official signal. The U.S. was now seriously considering a weapon that, until that moment, was pretty much thought to be completely off-limits. Okay, so let's talk about Russia's reaction. They've always been pretty clear about where they stand on Western weapons in Ukraine, right? But this proposal crosses into totally new territory. Let's break down why this one is so different. Right, so here is the absolute crucial point. Russia is saying that if Ukraine uses a US-supplied missile to hit a target deep inside Russia, they won't see it as an attack from Ukraine. No, they will see it as a direct attack by the United States. That is their red line. No ambiguity about it. And if you want to see just how massive this shift is, just look at this comparison. The Biden administration was really hesitant to even send missiles with a 300-kilometer range. Why? Because they were afraid of escalation. Now, the new proposal on the table, we're talking about missiles with a staggering 2,500-kilometer range. It's a whole different ballgame. Let's just put that in perspective for a second. We're talking about a weapon with more than 8 times the range of what was previously considered too risky to send. This isn't some small incremental step up. It's a gigantic, massive leap in military power. All right, so now let's get into the hardware. Let's talk about the weapon at the very heart of this firestorm, the legendary Tomahawk cruise missile. So what is it that makes this thing so effective and so feared? Okay, first, a real quick primer. A cruise missile is not like a ballistic missile, which, shoots way up into the sky and then comes crashing back down. Nope. A cruise missile is basically a self-propelled, guided weapon. Think of it like a jet-powered drone that flies super low to the ground, hugging the terrain to stay hidden. Here's a good way to think about it. A ballistic missile is like throwing a baseball way up high in a big arc. You're going for distance. A cruise missile, on the other hand, is like a fastball, thrown low and straight right over the plate. That big, high arc is way easier to spot on radar, but that low, fast missile, it's much, much harder to detect until it's practically on top of you. Now, what makes the Tomahawk so special, so extraordinary, is that it combines that stealthy, low-flying profile with just an incredible range. We're talking 2,500 kilometers. That is highly unusual for a cruise missile, and it's exactly what makes this thing a total strategic game changer. And listen, it's not just about the range either. The Tomahawk carries a massive 1,000-pound warhead. That is a ton of destructive power that can be delivered with pinpoint accuracy, deep, deep inside enemy territory. So let's just put it all together. You've got a weapon that can change its course mid-flight, almost like a smart drone. Its low flight path makes it incredibly sneaky, so it can evade most radar. And on top of all that, it's super precise, and it's been a proven, reliable cornerstone of the U.S. military for over 30 years. Okay, so now that we've got the tech specs down, let's pull back again to the big picture. What does this actually mean for the war itself? Why is this so much more than just another weapon system? Look, what this all boils down to is pretty simple. and it's this. Giving Ukraine Tomahawks means that from inside their own borders, they would have the ability to strike Moscow. This is a strategic capability they have never, ever had before. It completely changes the balance of power and the entire threat calculation for Russia.
And we don't really have to guess how Russia might react to this kind of threat because we've seen it before. After a previous long-range strike on its territory, Russia immediately and publicly changed its nuclear doctrine. They basically hinted that future strikes like that could trigger a nuclear response. So this shows that these threats, they're not just bluster.
But of course, from Ukraine's perspective, the logic is completely different. As you can see from this quote from a Ukrainian official, they don't see the Tomahawk as a weapon of escalation. They see it as a powerful deterrent. It's a way for them to say, hey, Russia, any more attacks on our cities will come at a cost you are not willing to pay.
And so, that leaves us with the ultimate question, doesn't it? Is this promise of the Tomahawk a brilliant strategic move, a tool that could finally bring peace through strength? Or is it an incredibly dangerous bluff, pushing two nuclear-armed superpowers one step closer to a direct conflict that the world simply cannot afford?